Belum kakak. Hello, everyone. Am I audible? Okay, so fine. I think I'm audible to every one of you. So let's start. Okay, so just a quick update. So the way we used to take classes. So basically, like I'm going to take all the questions at the end of this classes. So in between, so I will not try to take any of the questions. Maybe one or two from your chat box. So yeah, I'll try to take a questions, and because it disturbs many people and it breaks a flow sometime, and many people are not able to follow. So this is the feedback that we have received. So that is one update that we have. So at the end of this class, so I will try to take a like a questions. So first of all, in first 1 hour 45 minute of lecture, so we will try to deliver each and everything, and then after that, so we'll start taking questions. And apart from that, so as of now, you were trying to drop a mail from your canvas, and then you were getting your response. So that was a kind of a support that we were providing you apart from your live doubt clean session. Now, so now we have started one more service for you. So there is an email ID called as support@the rate of ineedon.ai. So basically through Skype, so you will be able to ping to this email ID from starting from a morning 12, I can say, or 12 noon. So 12 p.m. to 12 a.m. for all 7 days. And let's suppose if you have a doubt, so any kind of a doubt, doesn't matter like what kind of a doubt you have. So maybe you can have a doubt with any kind of installation, or maybe a system setup, or maybe some kind of a code, or maybe with respect to any other things. So you will be able to ask all of these doubts just by pinging over here at support@the rate of ineedon.ai, and it will be a live support that you are going to get. So from our side, so support team is going to ping you back, and if it is like a necessary, they will take a call with you, and they will try to resolve your doubt as soon as possible, so that you will not even have to wait for a next 24-hour to get your query answered at any point of a time. So this is the new kind of a support that we have started since yesterday itself, and you can avail this particular service for all 7 days in between these to these time. So even if like you are not following this particular time, so it's completely fine. You can ping to the support team, and whenever they will be live, so when from this time to this time, so for sure they will try to help you out, and they will try to give you all kind of support. So this is a new update for you guys, so that like you will not have to ping, or you will not have to just drop a mail in your canvas dashboard, and then you will have to wait for next 24 hour. Now here, so there is some restriction that we are going to put. So we have observed that many of you are asking us to solve your problem in terms of you're trying to bring up questions from your colleague, or maybe you're trying to bring some of the questions from maybe from some of the interviews, I can say, or maybe from here and there. So we can give you advice in this particular cases. So like if you're going to ping to our support team, so they can give you advice, and they can even try to solve it. There is no if and but with that. But the thing is, so it depends upon like how much time it is going to take. So if it is going to take a huge amount of time, so in that case, for sure, support team is not going to give you support in that case with respect to your personal queries. So support team is not going to help you out with respect to your personal queries. But yes, apart from your personal queries, so whatever things we have discussed, or whatever things we are going to discuss, so some of you are trying to cover this entire things into a fast track basically. And you can ask any questions means, even if you are trying to complete this entire syllabus into a fast track, basically based on the pre-uploaded videos, so you can ask question. We don't have any issue question with respect to any algorithm, any kind of a coding, any kind of a project, any kind of a deployment, doesn't matter at all. So each and every kind of a support will be available live over here. And yes, if it is possible, like my support team will try to take a system access, and then they will try to fix this issue then and there, or immediately, so that you will not have to wait for next 24 hours. As of now, you like you guys used to wait for 24 hours to get your query resolved in general. And on like a Thursday, a live doubt clean session, so you used to ask a doubts. So that option is already available. So Thursday for sure, from like 10 to 12, you will be able to ask your doubts. But apart from that, so yes, So this is the live session, and you will get a mail as well by today evening. So I'm going to drop a mail saying that, okay, so this is the mail ID, and through your Skype account, so you can try to ping my team. And I'm assuming that most of you must be having a Skype installed inside your system, or maybe in your mobile devices. If not, so just try to install Skype inside your system. It's free. Basically, you're not supposed to pay anything, so it's completely free. So you will be able to install this Skype in your mobile devices. You will be able to install Skype into your desktop or laptop that you are using, and then from there, so you will be able to ping. And like I said, so I'm not going to take any questions in between the lectures. So after the lecture, so after having 1 hour 45 minutes of lecture continuously, so I will try to take questions, as many questions as possible, because we are already giving you a live without coding sessions. Apart from that, so we are already giving you a dashboard, so we are clarifying our doubts. Apart from that, so this is the new service that you have. So yes, I think like you have enough space to ask any kind of a doubts. There is no meaning of wasting a time in between classes, because this is the feedback that we have received from many of you, so hundreds of you. And we are going to follow those things, because we always works on the feedback, and we always try to improvise our services in terms of everything. So fine, guys, this is just a quick update for today's session. Now let's start the session. So last time we were talking about basically a different kind of collections. Collections means like a dictionary or a tuples or a set. So these are the things that we have discussed in last class. Now, before that, so we were talking about a list, we were talking about a string manipulation. So we have discussed so many things, and it was just a basic, it was just a very basic thing that we have discussed. Now in today's class, so we are going to talk about basically like a function. What is function? Basically, how you will be able to create your own function. What is a need of creation of a function, and where and all you will be able to use a function. So that will be a agenda for today's class. If time allows, then we will try to jump into OOPS programming language. Otherwise, we are going to start our OOP from tomorrow. So let's see how it goes, because we have to discuss a lot. Because here in today's session, so first of all, I will try to talk about like how you can create your own functions. Then what is generator, what is iterator, and what is the difference between generator and iterator. So this concept is a little bit confusing. Generator, iterator, iterable. So these are like, this confuses a lot. So just try to focus over here. And then at the end of this lecture, so we will try to talk about like what is a map function, what is a reduce function, what is a filter function, what is a lambda function basically. So these are the working mechanism of the functions that we are going to discuss. So fine. First of all, what is function? So you must have seen, so when we are talking about like a dictionary, so we have discussed items, dictionary.items, or we talked about a dictionary.keys, or we talked about dictionary.values, or when we were talking about a list, so we talked about like a list.append, or we talked about list.count, or we talked about list.indexes. And again, almost a similar kind of functions that we have observed, or you can say methods we have observed when we were talking about a string. Again, we must be using like a function called as type, which try to give me a data type. We must be using a function called as id, which was trying to give me a basically address of a particular variable in a Python. And apart from that, so we were talking about like print statement. So print is again a kind of a function. So these are the predefined functions. So these are the kind of a functions or kind of a methods which is already available inside your Python libraries. Now, so these are something which is already available inside your Python libraries, and whenever we have to use it, whenever I have to print something in my console, I simply call a print method, and then I try to pass my own data inside this print method. So as an argument, that is called as an argument basically, and then I will be able to get a response, and that is called as a function. So function is nothing but a kind of a predefined entity, or maybe a custom entity that you are going to create, in which you will try to pass a data, or maybe it could possible that you will not even try to pass a data set. It's completely fine, and it will try to perform some kind of operations on top of your data set. So basically, functions or method, whenever we are talking about function and method, So we always try to use functions and method in a context where we have to increase a reusability of our code, means write once and use many times. So suppose if I'll give you a task, so like suppose like if I have given a single task to all of you now, so if I have asked you, okay fine, so try to write your own method and then try to implement it. So like we have done in your assignments, so we have asked you to write many functions, like write your own map function, write your own filter functions, write your own reduce functions, or maybe write a function which will be able to calculate an area of triangle and all sort of things. Now, so generally every one of you will try to apply your own logic and then you will try to write those functions. And then like you try to call those functions and then you try to pass a data set and finally you will get a response. Now, so everyone will try to do all of those things in their own way. Maybe there will be a here and there a little bit of code changes you will be able to observe with respect even logics. You will be able to find out that okay, so some people is trying to write a logic into a different way and some people are trying to implement their logic into a bit different way. Now, so basically function always follows a concept called as write once and use many times. Now, so maybe one of you, so instead of writing these functions like almost by every one of you, so maybe all of you can try to write a function, maybe, or one of you can try to write a functions and then everyone can use a similar function. So in that case you will not have to invest a time and energy again and again, and without even doing that, so you will be able to create your own function, you will be able to write your own function basically. So like everyone is not going to write a functions like print statement. So all of you don't even know that okay, so how this print function is written. All of you don't even know that how this list dot append function is written. Basically all of you don't even know that how this id function is written. But you know that okay fine, so what argument I'm supposed to pass and then finally what I will be able to get. So someone has already written, someone has already implemented all sort of functions and you're just trying to use it. So in this case you're not even supposed to know that okay, so what has been implemented inside a body of a function. You just know that okay fine, so I'll pass this argument, I'll get something else. So this is the like a kind of a tradition that we used to follow. Now here, so we will try to understand that how we can write our own functions, and it's very simple. It's not like it's like a something it's a rocket science kind of a things. So it's very simple. Every one of you will be able to write your own function. Every one of you will be able to implement it in your own environment. So one by one, this is what we are going to understand and we are going to discuss. So first of all, I will try to start from a very basic. So how you can try to start creating a function. So there is a keyword called as def. So def is nothing but it's a definition. So now what is the meaning of definition? So whenever you start writing your function in Python, so you always try to start with this kind of a keyword called as def. If I'll talk about any other programming languages, suppose if I'm talking about a Java, so in general, we try to start with a data type and then we try to give a function name over here, and then we try to pass an argument or no argument, then we try to give a curly braces, which is nothing but a starting point for the function body, and then we try to close a curly braces. So this is what we used to follow in case of a Java or in case of most of the programming languages. So we always starts with the data type over here. So void means so it can return anything, or null, or if I want, so if I want my function to return maybe some kind of a data type, so maybe I can try to mention integer, or maybe string I can try to mention, or maybe I can try to mention float, or maybe I can try to mention list. So any kind of a return, this function is going to give it to you. Return means what? The expected value, the expected kind of a data type that you are going to return, you're going to get. So this is what happens in case of a Java. Or if I'm talking about Scala, so you do the same thing basically. Or if I'll talk about like a C, C++ or C#, so almost similar kind of a nomenclature you are going to follow even in other programming languages. But if I'll talk about a Python, So Python understands all of your data type by itself. So you're not supposed to worry about this. You're not supposed to worry about that what kind of data I'm looking for in return from a function. It's completely fine. It's completely obsolete, I can say. So here, you're not even worry about this kind of a data type, and that's a region. So people have created a keyword called as def, a definition of the function, so you can start writing your function in Python without even taking care of I can say like a data type, because we have seen in our past classes that even if we were trying to create any kind of a variable, whether it's a list, tuple, dictionary, string, integer, float, so it was able to, my Python compiler was able to understand each and every data type. So this kind of a things you are not supposed to take care of. That's the first thing. Second thing is function name. So yes, you are supposed to give a function name. It could be anything. It can start with any letter or it can end with any letter, and then you can give any name as a function name, because id function, if I'll talk about a print function, so someone has given this name to this id function or to this print function, or maybe a append function, or maybe a index function, maybe a count function, maybe a insert function, all sort of a thing. Now you are free to give any kind of a name to your function. That is one thing. Now argument wise, so here, so whatever data you try to provide, like suppose if I'm trying to call id function, so in id function, so we always try to provide any kind of a variable. Maybe I can provide a and it try to give me id of a. So this is nothing but it's called as a args, arguments, I would say. So arguments are nothing but a variable or a data that you are going to provide in a runtime. So here you can try to provide anything. There's no problem with that. So yes, same things are applicable even inside of Python. So you can try to give a function name. That is fine. Now you can try to create a function with argument or without argument. So both are possible. So it's not like it's necessary that every time you have to provide an argument. No, it's completely fine. Even if you are not going to provide an argument, no one is going to complain. So unless and until it will fits to your function definition, it's completely fine. You can try to provide one argument, you can try to provide two argument, you can try to provide as many argument as you want. There is no constraint again. Now if I'll talk about specifically about a Java, so here you are supposed to start a body of your function with a curly braces, but in Python you are not supposed to do that, because we have already seen in our previous classes that there is no curly braces concept which exists inside a Python, I would say. So here we are going to use this colon. So whenever we have to start a function, so we are going to maintain our indentation and we are going to maintain a body and the signature of a body with respect to these, I can say, a semicolon. So these are the things that you are supposed to use while creating a function. So fine guys, let's try to understand that how we can create a different kind of a function and how we'll be able to use it. So here, as you can see, so I'm trying to write a keyword called as def. Def means simple, a starting point for the function, or you can say definition. So I wanted to write some kind of function. So like there must be something which can be a starting point for me, and def is a starting point for me. Now what I will do is I can try to write a name. So as of now, so like, okay, so I have not created a function so far, so forth. I will try to give any name. So let's suppose I'm trying to give a name called as test. But whenever you're trying to do a real-time coding, so we always try to follow some kind of a standard procedure. So in that way, so always like we have to maintain a naming convention. This is how we try to like write a code, so that if someone else is looking into my code, they will be able to understand it easily just by looking into a name. So you should write always code like a story. Writing code is nothing but it's writing a beautiful story, I would say. So you should always write a code in that way, so that other person will be able to understand, not only you. So fine. So def and then function name I'm trying to give, and then I'm trying to give this parenthesis. So open bracket and close bracket. Now, so after that, as of now, I don't want to pass anything as an argument. So it's completely fine. I have given a def and then a function name and then colon. Colon means I wanted to write something inside a function. Now, so let's suppose I have just executed it. I have not given any kind of a colon or any kind of a things. I have just executed it. And in that case, you are going to receive an error saying that, okay, I'm not able to understand that what you have done over here. And for sure, why it will try to understand? Because we have just created a function name and just we have written that, okay, fine, I'll give you a definition, but you have not given a definition. So for sure, it will be looking for a definitions basically of your function. So here I'm going to give a column. So let's say that, okay, fine. So I wanted to give a definition. Again, if I'm going to execute, again there is a problem. So it is trying to tell me that, okay, fine, so unexpected end of file while passing. Now what is the meaning of that? So you said that, okay, you will give a body of the function, but still you have not given a body of the function, and that's a problem basically. So here, let's suppose I wanted to create a function over here in this particular place, and I don't want to define a body of a function. So in that case, I can try to use a keyword called as PASS pass. Now, if I'm going to execute it, there is no problem. It's completely fine. So here I have created a function and I said that, okay, I will give you a definition. I'll give you a body of a particular function, but I'm not giving it. I'm just saying that, okay, fine. So I don't want, like, I don't want to give you a definition of this particular function. So do one thing, take pass. Pass means simple, pass the definition. So pass is a predefined keyword. I think in a past, so we have already seen that. And again, in your class and object. So we'll try to understand this pass again. So how we can use a pass or how we can create a classes without its body. Again, same goes with the function. So if you wanted to create any kind of a function and for which you don't want to give a definition, it's completely fine. So Python is not going to complain if you are going to give a pass over here, and it's completely fine. Now, so this is the function I have created, but I have not given any kind of a definition. Now what I will do, so the next thing will be, so I can try to use this function. Now how I can use this function? So basically, whenever I have to use this function, so I have to call a function with its signature. So suppose we are going to call test, and as of now, you will be able to see that I'm not able to get anything in return from this particular function because what I have done. So I have used a pass keyword and I'm not returning anything. I have never said that, okay, fine. So my function is going to do this task or that task. So simple, it is not going to give you any kind of error, but at the same point of time, it is not going to give you any kind of a output as well. So now let's try to create a meaningful function. So we'll try to create some kind of function which will be having some kind of a meaning. Now, so here what we can do is, so instead of giving a pass, so maybe I can try to give a print statement, print, and then I can try to write like this is my first function. So this is the kind of a print statement which I have given. Now if I'll try to execute it, because in a body of the function, what we have done, so we have written that, okay, fine. So just try to print whenever I'm going to call you. So whenever I'm going to call you, so just do one thing. So give me this print kind of a statement. And in a print, I have written that, okay, fine, this is my first function. Now, if I'll try to execute it, and you will be able to expect some output here. So you will be able to see that when I'm trying to call this particular function, so this particular function will invoke a body. So whatever you have written inside a body, and then yes, make sure that whenever you're trying to write a body of the function, so always try to maintain a proper indentation. And I think by this time, you all are aware about an indentation concept. You all know that, okay, fine. So what is the meaning of indentation and how Python maintains an indentation? Because this is the same thing we were trying to take care of in our past with respect to a for loop or maybe a while loop or maybe a if else kind of a statement that we have discussed so far, so forth. So it's completely fine. So here I have defined a body of functions and then on a function call. So whenever you are trying to call a function, so signature of this function should always be same as the signature that you have defined. If signature is not same, so in that case, for sure, you are going to get some kind of an issue. So let's suppose if I'm trying to provide something and then if I'm trying to execute, there is an issue basically. So here in my original function, I have never given any kind of a string, but here, so when I'm trying to call a function, so I'm trying to give a string, and that's a problem. It is saying me that, okay, so test function that we have created takes 0 positional argument, but you have given 1 positional argument, which is not correct. So you are always supposed to follow and fulfill the argument that you have given for a particular function. Otherwise, it is going to be an issue. So fine, here we have created a function and we are able to get some kind of an outcome out of the function. For the people who is like completely new inside a function, so I'm just trying to like go through a basic of this one by one. Now, so whenever you will be able to get some kind of a return, or whenever you are going to get some kind of a output from the function, so you can try to store these things into some of the variable, and then what you can do is you can try to call those variables and you will be able to get your answer, or maybe somewhere else in some other tab. So if you wanted to like call these functions, it's completely fine. So you will be able to get your answer over here. So here, as you can see, so like I'm trying to call A, and you must have observed that, okay, so I'm not able to get any kind of a values. Now I'd said that, okay, you will be able to get that. Now let's suppose if I'm going to do a print over here, print, and then if I'm going to execute, now it is going to give me none. Now, what is the meaning of that? Why it is giving me none? And many of you will get confused that when I'm using a print, then like if I'm trying to store some data set, it is trying to give me none. Now, if I'll try to check a type of this A, so it is going to give you a none type. So type of A is nothing but it's a none type that it is going to give it to me. Now, what is the meaning of that? Let's try to understand it. Now, before that, let's suppose, so I'm not using a print statement. I'm trying to use a return, let's suppose, and then I'm trying to give like, this is my first function. Now, if I'm going to execute it, now it is not giving me type is equal to like none type. And then if I'm trying to print this A, yes, I'm able to get A. So last time we have written a print statement, and then I was able to get a none type. And this time I have used a one single keyword, and that keyword is called as a return over here. And in this case, I'm not able to get a none type. I'm able to get a valuable result. Now, so let's try to understand a difference between a print statement and a return statement. So whenever you are going to write a print statement, so if you will try to check a return type of print, return type of print means whenever print is going to return you something. So return data type of print will always be a none type. And whenever you will try to do a coding, so you will be able, you must be expecting that, okay, fine, so I will be able to get some valuable result, and you will try to do some kind of a manipulations on top of those data sets, but you will find some error. So you will find some kind of a none type error or kind of a exceptions you can expect. And many people like goes mad after that, why I'm getting this result. So always remember that print statement is going to give you a none type, and it's completely fine. So if I'm going to write somewhere else like a print statement, let's suppose if I'm writing a print statement over here, so what will happen in this case? So if I'm going to write a print statement, and if I'm going to write like this is my print, it's completely fine. But if I'm going to store this data inside some variable, and you will be able to find out the type of this A will always be equal to a none type. Or if you will go to the signature of print statement, you will be able to find out that it always returns a none type. It's an inbuilt function and it's always going to return a none type. So you will not be able to perform any kind of a manipulation. So whatever manipulation that we used to perform, so you will not be able to perform like a manipulation on top of any data set that you are going to get in return from a print function. So that is not possible. So suppose like you must be expecting that, okay, fine, so it is going to return me a string. So fine, I have stored this string into A. Now if I'm going to write a string A dot maybe upper, that is not possible. You will not be able to get any kind of a hint. As you can see, like I'm not able to get any kind of a hint basically for this particular things, or any kind of a things you will not be able to expect, because it is going to return a none type. And same thing goes over here. So if I'm going to mention a print statement, so yes, it is going to print in my console, but at the same point of a time, so you will not be able to perform any kind of a manipulation. Now if you have to do some kind of a manipulation, in that case you can try to use basically a return operator. If I'm using a return as a keyword, so in that case it is going to return an exact data type to me. So suppose if I'm trying to return this particular string, so it's completely fine. It is going to give me, or if I'll try to check a type of this one, type of this one, it is going to give me basically a string. So let me execute these things once. Yeah, so you will be able to see that yes, I'm able to get a perfect string type over here. That is completely fine. So whenever you are looking for any kind of a data set, in that case you are supposed to use a return keyword, not a print statement, because many of you must be end up using a print statement while writing a function, but that is not a correct way. So print statement generally we use whenever we have to like debug, or maybe whenever I have to see the process flow of any kind of a function. Otherwise don't use these things, I would say. So fine, here we have a return, and this is the basic function I have written over here. Now other thing is, so return wise, you can try to return anything that you want, and there won't be any kind of a constraint. Let's suppose, so I wanted to return maybe a concatenation of a string. That is completely fine. So here I have done the concatenation, and you will be able to see that this is the string and this is the string, and it is going to return me a concatenation of a string, or maybe any kind of a manipulation you will be able to do. Now here we have created a function, and this function is not having any kind of argument, means this function is not taking any kind of input from my end. Let's suppose I wanted to create a function which will ask for the input. So whenever we are going to execute it, it should ask me for the input. So let's suppose I'm going to give some kind of input. So as of now, let's suppose like I'm trying to give over here as a x. So it will expect some kind of a input. Now, so on top of this x, so I wanted to perform, let's suppose, some kind of operation. So I wanted to do one thing. So I wanted to maybe this multiply this x by 3, means whatever things, whatever data set I'm going to provide. So what I'm doing, what I'm looking for is, so okay, do one thing, whatever data set I'm going to give it to you, so just try to multiply it by 3. And we know that like whenever we are going to give a string and we are trying to multiply a string with some constant integer, so in that case it will try to just like repeat that string that many number of the times. Or if we have an integer, so again same thing is going to happen, and again it is going to multiply it. So basically at that point of a time it will be a numerical multiplication, as simple as that. Now here let's try to understand it. So here I'm trying to call a test as a function. If I'm going to execute it, so okay, if I'm going to execute it, it is giving me a problem this time, because I'm not trying to follow a signature of a function. So signature of function says that, okay, so you should always pass some kind of a data, then only it will be able to give you some kind of a result, some kind of a return. So here what I can do is, so I can try to provide maybe some kind of a data. Suppose if I'm providing 5 over here, so if I'm going to provide 5 over here, so on a function call, this is the function call which I'm trying to do. So this 5 will go in this particular place, and then it is going to return you 5 into 3. So finally it is going to return a 15. So 15 means 15 as a integer it is going to return, because we know that Python try to understand each and every, Python always try to understand each and every data type by itself. So you're not supposed to worry about a data type just like any other kind of languages. That is completely fine. So fine guys, not an issue. So here you can try to execute it, and yes, we are able to get 15. Now if I'll try to check a data type, so maybe I can try to check a data type of this one, and you will be able to find out that yes, it's an integer. Just trying to understand it by itself. It's completely fine. Now it could possible that I can try to pass my name, SUDH. And we know that, okay, so if we are going to pass a string and we are going to multiply a string with some constant integer, so in that case it is just going to re-replicate that string that many number of the times. So it is replicating my string that many number of the times. As simple as that. Now here, so instead of giving one single return, so suppose I'm looking for a multiple outcome, I'm looking for a multiple values. So maybe I can try to create a function which will be able to give me a multiple output. Even that is possible. What I can do for that is, like suppose I'm looking for, like whenever I'm going to insert an integer, or maybe I'm going to insert a string, so maybe I'm looking for multiplication as well as concatenation in terms of like a string, or in terms of an integer, so same like a numerical addition, numerical multiplication. So what I can do is, so I can try to pass x plus x, let's suppose x plus x over here. So here you will be able to observe that I'm trying to take one single x. I'm trying to take basically one single input, but output wise, so I'm trying to give two output over here. Two output means, so one will try to return a multiplication and one is just trying to do the addition operation or like a concatenation in terms of a string. Now, so here I will be able to create this kind of a function for sure. And if I'm going to execute it, let's suppose if I'm going to execute it, so now what will happen? So now it is going to return me a tuples. And we talked about tuples basically in last class itself. We have seen that what is a meaning of a tuples and like how I will be able to create a tuple. So all those things we have seen in our previous classes. Now, so here, if I have more than one return, in that case, you will be able to get that. It is always going to return me a tuple. You can try to check a data type as well. There is no problem. And you will be able to get that. It is going to return me a tuple over here. It is going to return me a tuples. Now, so we know that. We know that how we'll be able to extract a data out of the tuples. It's not a big deal at all. So like tuple always try to store a data set with respect to indexes, and you will be able to extract those data sets from your tuples easily. Now, here, let's suppose I'm trying to get some return, and at the same point of a time, I'm not looking for any returns into tuples. I'm looking for all those returns into a single variable. So what I can do is I can try to create a variable in that case. So maybe I can try to create in this way. So there is a function, as you can see over here. So this is a function and which is going to return two things, tuples in general. Now I don't want to like get all my data set inside a tuples. What I want is, so whenever it is going to return me a data, so it should be able to store all of those things into some kind of a variable. So it's completely fine. I'm returning two things. I have given two variable over here. So the first data it is going to store in this particular variable. Second data it is going to store inside this particular variable. It's very simple and very intuitive concept. You will be able to find out with respect to a function. So it's completely fine. If I'm going to execute it, so it's fine. Now individually I will be able to get my data set. So individually the first argument, the first like a return will be a multiplication. So yes, it's completely fine. It is repeating my SUDH 3 times. Now if I'm looking for B over here, so yes, I'm able to get an individual B element as well. So means an outcome from x plus x. So if you are looking for a multiple return, you will be able to get a multiple return. There is no problem with that. So whenever you are going to get a multiple return, so by default function returns everything encapsulated within a tuples. Now if you're not looking for the tuples, again that is completely fine. You can try to give that many number of the variable and then it's done. Your work is done. Or else you can try to provide a placeholder as well. Suppose like I'm not in mood, maybe I don't want to create any kind of a variable, any kind of extra variable. So I'm just looking for a first element or first return from this particular function. So in that case, what I can do is, so I can try to give a meaningful name to get a first variable. Suppose you have created some function and your function is returning 10 different elements. Now I'm not at all interested in all of your 10 elements. Maybe I'm interested into just a 5th return or 6th return or maybe a first return or maybe into a 10th return. I'm not looking for like all the data set or all the 10 different kind of return. It's not a problem at all. So if I don't want to return, so what I can do is I can try to use a placeholder over here as an underscore and it's completely fine. So like if I'm going to call A, I will be able to get my data. And if I'm going to call underscore, it's completely fine. It's not like I have to waste my names. It's not like I will have to give a names for sure. So I can try to use a placeholder. Now I can try to use a placeholder even over here. Now it will be confused. So which placeholder I'm supposed to print? So if I'm just going to give all those data set as a placeholder, there will be a problem actually. So you will be able to see that, okay, fine. So it is trying to consider the last one because it's always updates. Like it will try to get a first data, then second data, then whatever you are able to get in a last one, so you will be able to print that as a value. So if you have to like create a function, and then out of those function, if you are looking for certain positional argument, you can try to like make other positional argument as a underscore, and then you can try to give a meaningful name to other things, and in that way you will be able to call only that specific things. That is completely fine. So here I'm looking for a B, so fine, I have given a placeholder for the first return and for the second return. So yes, I'm trying to give a meaningful values, and I will be able to extract the data set. If you're not giving anything, then also it's completely fine, because it is going to return a tuple. So this is how function returns. Now if I talk about a difference between return and printf, so we have seen that printf always try to give a none type, and if you are trying to receive a none type, so for sure you will not be able to do any kind of a primitive operation. So any kind of a data manipulation operation you will not be able to do unless and until you are not converting your data set, unless and until you are not typecasting your data set. So none type is not going to work for you. So print statement always returns none type, and many of you as a beginner are going to get confused for sure while doing a coding. Now if you are looking for some specific data, if you are looking for some specific result, in that case always try to use a return, and then you can return any number of the element, doesn't matter, even data type doesn't matter at all. Let's suppose if I'm going to return maybe a list. So here is a list that I'm going to create, and inside my list, so I have a integer, and maybe here I have a dictionary, because we have discussed a dictionary. So like key 1 is equal to maybe like my name is UDH, and here so key 2 is nothing but maybe like my title KUMAR, and then what we can do is it's completely fine. So here what we have done, so we were trying to return two things over here. So one is a list and another one is a dictionary, and I'm trying to capture a dictionary into a B variable. So it's completely fine. So whatever I have written inside that, whatever I was trying to return, so yes, I'm able to get exactly a same return. So it doesn't matter what kind of a return you are going to get. It's completely fine. It depends upon my need. I can try to create any kind of a function which will be able to give me any kind of a return. With that, there is no restriction. Whether you are returning a primitive data type or whether you are returning a collection, doesn't matter at all. And how many elements you are going to return, again, that doesn't matter at all. So it's completely fine, guys. So here we have done these things and we are able to get a dictionary as a return. It's completely fine. Now, so I was talking about a return. I was talking about a print statement. Now I'll talk about a function body. So as of now, we have written this particular statement in a function body. This is a body. So whatever you are going to write after this column, so that is called as a body of a function. Body means, so whatever like you wanted to like do with your function, so that you are going to write inside your body. Let's suppose I'm going to provide some data X. And then let's suppose like I'm expecting that, okay, fine. So like I'm going to provide a list. And then what I want is, so I want my function to take all of those lists and like try to give me a extracted element one by one. So let's suppose I'm providing a X. Inside that, I can write a function definition. So for I in X, I can say, and try to print or like try to maybe like try to, what I can say is like, okay, so try to give me maybe a I values or return. I can write in this way. So print this I. So fine, I have written a function which will try to print a data set from a X. This is what I have written. Now X could be anything. So X could be a string, X could be a list. It will not be an integer. Why? We'll talk about that. Now here, so I'm trying to call this function, as you can see, and I'm trying to pass this particular argument. That is completely fine. Now if I'm going to execute it, you will be able to get each and everything. So someone has written this function and you are just supposed to use it. So I have just written this function. So if you wanted to iterate over this data, you're not supposed to write your own function. So what you can do is just call a function, try to pass the argument, and finally it's done. So you will be able to get all the data, and doesn't matter what kind of a complex operations you are going to write. Like suppose, like if I wanted to write maybe some kind of a condition. So if type, so if type of, I can say if type of I, or maybe if I is equal to, if I is equal to like a u, so I is equal to u. So in that case, I'm saying that, okay, apply a break statement we have already discussed. Otherwise, just do one thing, print I. Now what will happen in this case? Simple. So I have written that, okay, fine. So whenever you are going to encounter I is equal to u, so in that case, just try to apply a break, and it's completely fine. So whatever statement I have written inside the function, it's trying to follow it. So if I'll ask you to write a function, and then suppose like I don't want to like create a new thing, or I don't want to write a code. I don't want to like a code, like I don't want to write any kind of a code or any single line over here. Now what I can do is I can try to write a kind of, so I can ask you like I can give you a follow statement saying that, okay, so write one function. So wherever it will encounter u, it will come out of the loop, or it will not do anything. This is the function that you will write. Now what I will do, nothing, simple. I will go ahead with your function. I will try to just call a function, pass my data set, and my work will be done. So you're not supposed to like, I'm not supposed to write a function again. It's completely fine. I will try to use the function that you have written. And this is what we have been doing while using a different kind of a functions, which is already available inside your Python compiler. So fine guys, so this is a basic of a function. And we have seen that how we can try to create a function. First of all, inside a body of a function, you can write anything that you want, whatever logic that you want. So you will be able to write each and every logic inside a body of the function. Now return type wise, you can try to print something in that case. So you are going to get a null type. You can try to write a return as well. And in that case, you will be able to get some data type as a return. And this is what happens inside a function. So I think I'm assuming that now all of you know that how we can create our own function, how we can pass an argument, how we can write a body, how we can write a return. And we have seen that we can write a multiple returns as well. We can try to capture all those returns into a tuples, or maybe we have seen that we can try to get all of those returns, I would say, into a different variables. Depends upon me. So like what kind of a function definition I wanted to write. So let's try to understand it. Let's try to understand the same thing one by one by understanding our different kind of functions. So here I have created a dictionary, as you can see, and I'm assuming that all of you are able to understand each and everything that we have discussed. Now, so here what I'm trying to do is, so I'm trying to create a dictionary, and here I'm trying to show you uses of this dictionary. Simple thing, like I'm trying to use inbuilt function. So dictionary.items over here, and yes, this is the inbuilt function. So someone has written this function for me basically. So if I wanted to understand, if I wanted to check that what is a signature of this item, so it's not taking any kind of inputs, just an item you are going to call, and then it is going to give you like tuples of a list of all the key and value pairs. Simple. This is what item does. So someone has written these things for us, and that's the reason. So we are able to use this function. Similarly, so I will be able to write my own function, which can be used by someone else. It's completely fine. Now, so as you can see over here, so I'm just trying to like create a function test in this particular place, and it is going to take some kind of a argument a, and then it is trying to iterate over that argument. Argument could be a list, it could be a tuples, it could be a dictionary as well, it could be I can say a list or a string, doesn't matter. And then it is trying to perform like a I plus one, and then you will be able to get a final result. Now if I'm going to call this function, let's suppose like a test a, and let's suppose if I'm going to pass a test, and then inside that if I'm going to pass maybe a list 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 or something like that. So what will happen? So it is going to return me print I plus 1. Now print I plus 1 means, so 1, it is going to take, and then I plus 1. We know this for loop basically. So I don't think that on this label, so we have to talk about this for loop because we have already discussed many times. It's completely fine. Now here, so I'm trying to take a list, as you can see. So list as a parameter I have created, a list as a blank parameter I have created, and then I'm trying to write like for I in range 6. So I in range 6. So here range 6 is nothing but, so we know what range 6 is going to do. So range is going to create a data set in between 1 to 6, starting from like a, I would say, so starting from a 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, excluding 6. This is what range does. So it's completely fine. So it is going to like create a data set for you. And then we are trying to like take inputs for that many number of the times. And then we are trying to call an append operation. Same thing I can try to put inside a function. And then, so whenever we are going to call a function, so function is going to perform all of those kind of a operation. So for example, if I have to write all of those things inside a function, so what I can do is I can try to create a function. Let's suppose like I can try to create a def and then test one. Let's suppose I'm trying to create, and then this is completely fine. And here, let's suppose I'm looking for a return of L. Now it's completely fine. If I'm going to call this a test1, so what will happen? So test1 is going to execute a body of the function. Now how this execution happens, let's try to understand it. So here I have called a test1. Now, so in this particular place, so what I have done, so first line is list L is equal to blank, simple. So I have created a blank list over here. Now after that, so I'm trying to write a for loop. So inside a for loop, what I'm trying to do, so I'm trying to write like, okay, range. Now we know that range is going to generate a data set 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6, excluding 6. So it will try to generate data from here to here, because we know that range is not going to give you a data set 6, which is the upper bound that we have given. Fine. So this for loop will try to iterate over this particular things one by one, and then for every iteration, it is going to take an input. Input means, so we have discussed, we talked about the input function in our last classes. So input means whenever you are looking for some kind of input from your console, so then input will come into a picture. Now here, so we have discussed even these cases that input always trying to return a string. Doesn't matter what you have inserted. So whether it's a list or whether it's a tuple or whether it's an integer, it is going to return a string. This is what a definition of an input says. Now, if you are looking for any other kind of a data type with respect to these inputs, in that case, you will have to do a typecasting. Then only you will be able to get the values. So fine, I'm trying to write an input over here, and every time, so in every iteration, so it is going to take inputs, and then it is going to append these inputs into L. Once it will come out of the for loop, then finally you will be able to get return as L. So return as list you will be able to receive over here. So here it's completely fine. I'm going to give some input, maybe some data, again input, again input, again input, again input, again input, and finally this is what you will be able to get, a list, because this is what we were trying to do. So this is what we were trying to do over here. L.append and append all the data set that I have inserted. So I will end up creating a list over here. Again, it's a basic concept that you must be able to understand. So here I'm trying to perform all of those things with the help of one single function. So again, I'm trying to use, or I'm trying to achieve a reusability of a code by writing everything, by encapsulating everything inside a function, because in this way for sure you will be able to like increase, like whenever I have to use this kind of a logic, I don't have to write a function again. It's completely fine. I'll just call it in this way. So here I have just called this function and my work is completely done. So fine guys, this is what happens over here. Now, so many kind of a function you will be able to write. So fine, let's try to understand it. So here I have again given a nomenclature. So this is the same code which is available inside your slide as well, which is already available inside your like a dashboard. So here I'm trying to call like a def and function name. Argument wise, I can provide any number of a argument. For example, let's suppose I'm trying to call a def, and maybe suppose I'm trying to create some function called as addition. And inside that, so I'm trying to provide a comma b, let's suppose, as an argument. So I wanted to pass a 2 argument, and maybe return wise, so I wanted to give a plus b. That is completely fine. So if I'm going to call this addition operations, and if I'm going to like call this function, so it's completely fine. I can try to provide 4 comma 5, and I will be able to get finally as a 9. Or maybe we know that like this plus operator even works with the string concatenation. So you can try to pass like SUDH, and then I can try to pass maybe like a KUMAR, and I will be able to get return as a SUDH KUMAR. So that is completely fine. So you will be able to get all the answer. You will be able to get all the response from this function. So you can try to provide any number of arguments. Now let's suppose I wanted to create a function where I don't want to pass a values at the time of execution. So means I wanted to provide a default value. So let's suppose I have created a function over here. In this particular place, I'm passing 2 arguments. So here the first argument is A and the second argument is B. Now for B, so I have already passed a values. Now, so if I'm going to execute it, it's completely fine. I'm just passing 1 argument. But at the time of creation of the function, so for sure, I have passed 2 arguments. But at the time of calling this function, so it's completely fine. So it is trying to take a default argument. So this is B. For B, we have already given a default argument. So it will try to take a default argument. And you will be able to find out in Python that for many different kind of a function. So in Python, so for many different kind of a function, you will be able to find out many default arguments. Like in a print statement, if I'll talk about a separator, so you will be able to find out that default argument is given for that. Or like for a new line, so default argument is given for that. But it doesn't mean that you will not be able to override it. You can override it anytime. Now here, so this is what we are trying to do. So we are trying to pass this data, and then like if I wanted to override, I can try to give my own data set over here. And now the final result that you will be able to receive, so that will be overridden by the new one, not with the old one. So this is how you can try to create a function which takes a default argument as well. So that like this is how most of the Python function is being created. And even in pandas, numpy, or whatever we are going to discuss going forward, everywhere you will be able to find out a similar kind of things where people have already given a like a default argument, and you will be able to like call those functions, and you can try to override it if you want. So yeah, there are many different kind of things we will try to see, we'll try to understand, because going forward we have to create many functions, whether it's a Python project or machine learning project or whatever we are going to do. So we are going to follow a modular coding approach, and for sure we will end up doing all those things. So that is completely fine. Now here what I have done is, so I have created again a very small function, as you can see, and I'm trying to pass one data name, simple, like it's just a variable I'm trying to pass, and then I'm trying to print hello and percentile of S. Now percentile of S is nothing but it's a placeholder. Last time, if you remember in your class, so I think last to last class, so we were talking about a string dot format function, and what format function like does. So in a runtime, so it will try to replace your curly braces which you have written inside the string with a format function. This is what it does in general. Now, so if you are trying to write a placeholder which does the same kind of things, you can do it even in this way. So you can try to write like a percentile of S. Meaning of percentile of S is string. Meaning of percentile of D is integer. Meaning of percentile of F is floating point number. So this is like, again, you will, if you're coming from the C++ background, so I think you might be aware about these things, because exactly same thing happens even over there. Now, so here I'm trying to do one thing. So hello percentile of S. So what will happen? So it will try to look for a data in a runtime. Data means a string it will look for, because I have given percentile of S. If I'm expecting some kind of an integer, I can try to, or I have to give like a percentile of D. So it's completely fine. Now here, so percentile of name is whatever name you are going to take. So it's completely fine. So hello and then that name, replace that with the particular name. Now, so if I'm going to call this one, so what will happen? So in a runtime, so I have passed Josh over here. So Josh will go in this particular place and will try to replace this string, this percentile of S with this one. So that's the reason. So you will be able to get hello Josh, as simple as that. This is how it happens in a runtime. Now, maybe if I'm trying to provide like a integer, let's suppose, maybe some kind of integer, if I'm going to give, now it is going to give me, okay, fine. So 7. Now let's suppose if I have passed a D over here. Now, if I'm going to execute it, this is working fine. But if I'll try to, maybe let's suppose if I'm trying to provide a string, it's a problem, because what happens last time is, so when we were trying to pass an integer and we have given S over here. So when we have passed an integer in this particular place and when we have given a percentile of S over here, so it will be able to convert int to a string. But this time we have given D, we are expecting integer. So, and it will not be able to do this upcasting or by itself. So it will downcasting basically. So it will not be able to convert this string into a integer, and that's the reason. So you will be able to get this error saying that percentile of D format, a number is required, not a string. Again, so like whenever you will be able to get some kind of exceptions or some kind of problem for the Python, it's basically like a readable. You will be able to understand it by yourself. You're not even supposed to do a Google to understand all those things. Basically, this is how like Python, entire Python library is been written. I think we talked about these small functions over here. Now, so I would like to discuss about these functions. Let's try to understand it. So here, what I'm trying to do is, so I'm trying to, so here in this particular place, so I'm trying to write a function which will be able to check that what is a primary number. So let's try to understand that how we can write a function which will try to check that what is a primary number. So all of us know that, okay, what is primary number? Now, so primary number is nothing but it's a kind of a number which will be divisible by either 1 or itself. That is called as a primary number. This is what we understand from our childhood, I can say. So I can write a logic for that. So let's suppose if I have to check that whether, whether 7 is a primary number or not. Yes, 7 is a primary number. So to check whether 7 is a primary number or not, so I have to check that whether 7 is divisible by any other number except 1 or 7, means except 1 and the number itself. Suppose if I have to check whether 15 is a prime number or not, so I have to check that whether 15 is divisible by 1. So whether 15 is divisible by any other number except 1 and 15 or not. This is what we are supposed to understand. If we are able to understand this, it's completely fine. I can claim that whether number is a primary number or number is not a primary number. So this is what we are trying to do over here. So I'm trying to write a function. I have given a meaningful name. This is what you are supposed to give for sure, because like so that whenever I will try to read out your function, I will be able to understand that what you are trying to perform. Now here, so I have written is prime. Now I'm trying to pass a number over here. So let's suppose I can try to pass 7. So in a runtime, so let's suppose as a number, so I'm trying to provide 7. Now, so here, so I'm trying to like write a follow, because what I have to do, I have to achieve a task. What task I have to achieve? So I have to achieve a task. I have to check that whether this number which I have passed is divisible by 1 and a number itself or not. So if it is divisible by any other number, even any single number except 1 and 7, that the number is not a primary number. As simple as that. So we can claim that, okay, fine. So the number that we have taken is not a primary number at all. And this is what we are going to do over here. So here, so we are trying to write like a for n in range, and then range wise we have given these things. Now, what is the meaning of range? So as we know, like range wise we have given 2, and then let's suppose I'm trying to check whether 7 is a prime number or not. So as a number, so I have taken 7. So 2 to 7. Now what it is going to return? So it is going to return 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. So basically, I'm trying to generate this number so that I will be able to check. And this number, if you try to observe, this number is nothing but it's a number in between 1 to 7. So it's a number between 1 to 7. You will be able to find out. So I have to check for these numbers saying, because I'm starting from 2, as we know. So my lower bound is equal to 2. So it will try to generate a number starting from 2, and my upper bound is number itself. So it will try to exclude the upper bound. Means it will not try to generate 7, as we have already discussed about a range function in our previous classes. I don't think that people will not be able to understand. I'm assuming that all of you will be able to understand it. Now here, so you will be able to find out that, okay, so we have this entire list that we are trying to create, and then so range as a generator we are trying to create, and then one by one I will start extracting a data set. So one by one I will start extracting a data set out of this one. So in a first iteration, what will happen? So first iteration, n is equal to 2. Now I'm trying to check if number means what? Number means 7. If number is divisible by, because percentile, so what it returns? It always returns a remainder. So whether this number, so number means 7 percentile n. Now what is the value of n? So in a first iteration, 2. So 7 percentile 2 is equal to 0 or not. So if it is equal to 0, it means that this number is divisible by this one. If it is not equal to 0, it means that this number is not divisible by this number. As simple as that. So 7 percentile 2, what will happen? So 7 remainder 2 is equal to 1. This is always going to return a remainder, I can say. So 7 divided by 2, remainder will be equal to 1. It's completely fine. It means it is not equal to 0. Now it will try to check. So it will try to check for the second one, 3. So 7 percentile 3 is equal to 0. Again, no. So if you try to divide 7 by 3, you will be able to get remainder as 1. Again, it's no. Now 4. So 7 percentile 4 is equal to 0. No, again. So 7 percentile, I can say 5 is equal to 0. Again, no. 7 percentile 6 is equal to 0. Again, no. Now, so once it will be able to exhaust this entire for loop. So if you remember, so we were talking about a for else. It's not a if else I'm talking about. I was talking about a for else. And when someone or when your program will come to a else. So your program will come to an else. So if it will be able to exhaust your entire for statement, if it is going to exhaust it, then your program will come to else statement over here in this particular place. So once it will be able to validate all the condition, then it will come to else. And I have written that, okay, fine. So print that this number is prime. As simple as that. So it's a simple logic that we have written in our own way, I can say. Now, so this is what happens when it will try to check whether number is a prime number or a number is not a prime number. Let's suppose as a NUM, I'm trying to consider 6. We know that 6 is divisible by 6 itself, 1 as well as 2 as well as 3. So in case of 6, what will happen? So it is going to consider range is equal to 2, 3, 4, 5. These are the range it is going to consider. Now, so here you will be able to find out that if num percentile n is equal to 0, simple. So num means num is equal to 6. So I am trying to check that 6 percentile and n is what? 2 is equal to 0. And yes, this is equal to 0. That is fine. It's equal to 0. So if it will, this condition will be valid. So then it will go inside the body of if statement, and then it is going to print, no, that number is not prime. And then, so if we have already checked that if number is not prime, means, so number is divisible by any other number except 1 and the number itself, we can claim that, okay, fine, so number is not prime. And if number is not prime, we are not supposed to check it further. It's completely fine. So we are breaking it. So break out of the loop, and then for sure in that case, it will not print your else statement. Whatever you have written over here, it is just going to print it. So it is going to print that, okay, fine, number is not a prime. So This is again a basic function that we have written over here, as you can see. Now if I'm going to call it, so let's suppose if I'm going to pass like 6 over here, if I'm going to execute it, so you will be able to find out that yes, this number is not prime number. But if I'm going to pass maybe a 7, so yes, I'm able to check that this 7 is a prime number. Likewise, so you can try to provide any kind of a number, doesn't matter at all, and you will be able to check that whether my number is a prime number or whether my number is not a prime number, doesn't matter. So once you have written a function, you will be able to check, you will be able to get any kind of a things. So it's very easy. It's very easy to like write a function and then use it. Usability wise, simple. I'm calling a function and then I'm trying to pass a data set inside a functions, and bingo. So I'm able to get my final result. Now, so this is another way. So I have written a function in one way which will try to check whether number is a prime number or not. There is a other way as well by which I will be able to check that whether number is a prime number or my number is not a prime number. Now, so here, same thing I'm trying to do, same thing, but I will say that same thing I'm trying to achieve in a optimized way. So let's try to understand it. So here I have written again is prime. I'm trying to take a number. So last time, if you have observed, so last time what I was trying to do is, so I was trying to check whether number is a prime number or not. And I was trying to check for the range 2 to that particular number. So whether number is prime number or not. But a theory says that if you are not going to check for a particular number, whether number is prime number or not, starting from a 2 to that number minus 1, even though in this case you will be able to validate that whether your number is a prime number or your number is not a prime number. How? Let's try to understand it. So here what we have done. So let's suppose I'm trying to check number is equal to maybe 17. Let's suppose number is equal to percentile 2. So whether 17 percentile 2 is equal to 0, and I can say, so whether number or 17 that we have taken is greater than 2 or not. If both the conditions satisfy, then it will get inside this one. Means what? So if 17 means whatever number I have taken is divisible by 2, or I can say even number, because if something is divisible by 2, it means it's an even number. And if it is greater than 2, in that case, simple, go over here, return false. Return false means number is not a prime number. I can write anything. Return type wise, I can write any kind of a message over here, doesn't matter at all. If not, in that case, it will come to for loop. Now in for loop, what we are trying to do, so it's a little bit tricky, a little bit complex. Let's try to understand it. So just another way to check a prime number. There are another 100 ways by which you will be able to write a same function to check a prime number into an optimized way. So fine, for I in a range, now I'm starting from 3 this time, because I have already checked for 2 over here. So till 2 and 1 we are not supposed to check for 1, because every number which exists in this universe will be divided by 1. That is completely fine. But I'm trying to check with the 2. And here, what I'm trying to do is, so I have already checked with the 2. So here, if it is not coming inside this one, so it means that either this or this condition is false, because we have written AND condition over here. So AND condition satisfies when both the statements are correct. Now here, so for I in range, and range is starting from where? Range is starting from 3. And then after 3, what we have written? So number, so a square root of that number. So math.sqrt. So this always try to give you a square root, I would say. So a square root of 17. So what will be the square root of 17? Around 4.1, 4.2. This is what you will be able to get, a square root of 17. So fine, number is equal to 17. So I'm trying to find out the square root of 17, and then I'm trying to call 1 on top of that, integer on top of that. So it is going to return me the integer value. So the square root of 17, and out of that, if I'm trying to extract only integer part, so it will be 4 around. Now plus 1, 2, 2. Now what this range function is going to return? So this range function is going to return 3, 5, 2. Now, so if I'm looking for a data set, so this is going to give you 3, and 3 plus 2 is equal to 5. 5 is the upper bound. So this is just going to give you a 3. Now prime number theory says that if a number, so a number will be a prime number once it will be divisible by 1 and the number itself. And to check that, it's not like you are supposed to check or you are supposed to divide your particular prime number starting from like 2 to that number minus 1. This is what we have done. So suppose if I'm trying to check whether this number is a prime number or not, so I have to check these many number of the times. That is basically a painful job. And again, complexity of this program, a notation, a big notation for this program will be equal to n in that case. N means, so n number of times we are trying to check this one. Now suppose I wanted to reduce the complexity of a program. So in that case, what I can do, I can try to think about some logic which which is not trying to check the same thing, or maybe I can think about some kind of optimization in my logic where I'm not trying to run through that loop again and again that many number of the time. So prime number theory says that. So instead of checking a number starting from like a 2 to that particular number, it's completely fine if you are going to check only till the square root. That's fine, completely. So because suppose if I have to check that, okay, so whether 101 is a prime number or not, you're not supposed to check from 2 to 100 by dividing every time with all the number. Just try to find out the square root. The square root of 101 will be around 10, I can say. So you're just supposed to check from like a 2 to 10. Now even further you can optimize it. So basically here in a first statement itself, so we have already done our check. In a first statement itself, we have already done a check with the even number, with the 2. So now what I can do is, so I can try to start from an odd number. So because if someone is divisible by 2, it's completely fine. You're not supposed to check with a 4 or 6 or 8. It's completely fine. So here I'm checking with 3, and here step size wise I have given 2. It means I'm saying that, okay, so don't check for a consecutive number. Always check for 3 plus 2 is equal to 5 plus 7 plus I can say like a 9. So this is what I'm trying to say. So now here in case of 101, what will happen is it will check for 3, it will check for 5, it will check for 7, it will check for 9. So how many checks we are trying to do? Only 4 checks with the help of new logic. But if I'll talk about old logic, we were trying to check 100 times. Now you will be able to understand that how optimized this logic is. So here we are checking just 4 times. Here we are trying to run our code for 100 times. So for sure, this approach is a optimized approach. Now just it's just like a thought process. So if you have that kind of a thought, you will be able to write your optimized code. Otherwise, it's completely fine initially. So if you're not able to write this kind of a code, it's completely fine. So because it's not a code which I'm thinking of, it's just a logic. So if I know the logic, I can write a code, simple. So this is what we are trying to achieve over here. So we are trying to I would say create this particular, we are trying to check this number, whether the number is a prime number or not, in an optimized way. So I have given example of 101. So in case of 101, so just 4 times we are trying to check inside a for loop that whether this number is a prime number or not, instead of checking from a 2 till 100. Because in this case, yes, it's 199 times we are trying to check in this particular place. So it's completely fine, guys. So I'm trying to return like a true and false accordingly and in an optimized manner. Now if I'm going to like call 101, so for 101 it's giving me true. And if I'll try to check like, okay, so 56 is a prime number or not, it's false. It's not a prime number. It's completely fine because it will go inside the function, it will try to check that up, and then it will try to say that, okay, fine, whether number is a prime number or not, because it will fail over here itself. It will fail here because so number ampersand percentile 2 is equal to 0. So yes, it's an even number divisible by that, and then number is greater than 2. So like yes, both conditions will satisfy. It will go over here. It will try to print false, or maybe I can try to print something else as well. Doesn't matter. So not a prime number. Maybe I can try to print. So maybe I can try to do this, and yes, not a prime. So this approach is completely fine. So I'm able to get that, okay, fine, this number is not a prime. So whatever return I'm looking for, so I can return those things. So this is how, guys, you are supposed to write your function. So it's very easy, and it depends upon my requirements, like what is the kind of a requirement that I have to fulfill, and it depends upon your requirements. So you can try to write like a any kind of function that you want, and any kind of a task you will be able to perform, you will be able to achieve. Now the next thing that we are going to talk about is iterator and generator. So let's carefully let's try to understand this concept, because it confuses a lot. If I'll talk about like what is iterator or what is generator, it always confuses a lot, and you will face some kind of a problem as well when you are going to execute these kind of a code inside your system. So let's try to understand it now. String. So in a past, so we were talking about something called as a string. Now, so let's try to understand this. So in a past, so we were talking about a string, and we have seen that if I'm going to pass a string, so inside a for loop, so it is going to extract character one by one, and then finally I will be able to get the data set. Now, so we have seen that suppose if I'm writing a for I in and then sudh and then like print I, so it is going to give me character one by one. That is completely fine. Now, so again, if I'm going to pass maybe a list over here, so 1 comma 1 comma 2 comma 3 comma 4, something like that, it is going to give me like all those data set. Now what will happen in this case? So for sure your for loop is trying to iterate over to this data one by one, again and again. So for loop is trying to iterate over to this data. So first of all, it is trying to extract 1, then 2, then 3, then 4, and then it is trying to print it. So that is called as an iteration. That is called as an iteration. Now, so let's suppose I have written over here. So instead of like a string or instead of giving a list, I have written 45. Now what will happen? If I'm going to execute it, now it's a problem. So when I have given string, it was working fine. When I have given list, it is working fine. But when I'm trying to give this integer, so you will be able to find out that it is trying to tell me that int object is not iterable. Now, what is our meaning of that? Int object is not iterable. Like I said, so when you try to give a string, so it is trying to extract a data set, means it's trying to iterate through it, iterate through its indexes, basically. So we know that whenever we are trying to like enclose something inside a string, so it always tries to store all the data set with the indexes 0, 1, 2, 3, and so on. Same goes for a list. So it tried to store the data set with respect to our indexes. So in our 0th indexes, first indexes, second indexes, third indexes, it will try to store the data. So whatever is stored in terms of indexes, you will be able to extract, or you will be able to iterate through it. Iteration simply means you will be able to parse through it one by one, and then you will be able to extract the data. So for loop is able to iterate through an object which is an iterable object, or which behaves like a iterator. But here you will be able to find out that it is trying to tell me that int object is not at all iterable. Int object is not at all iterable. So you can't iterate over an integer. Now there is some conflict you will be able to find out. So there is a function called as next next. So let's try to understand it. So here there is a function called as next next, and next always try to give you a data from a particular, I can say like from a particular variables or maybe iterator. Let's try to understand it first of all. So suppose here if I'm trying to pass next sudh, now it is going to tell me that string object is not a iterator. Now here is a confusion that you will try to observe. There is two words. One word is called as a iterable, other word is called as a iterator. It's a difference. It's a iterable and it's a iterator. Both words are different. Just try to observe it. So last time what I have done is I was trying to pass an integer, and then it was trying to tell me that integer is not at all iterable. If I'm trying to pass a next over here, so it is trying to tell me that okay fine, so string is not iterator. I'm saying that okay fine, so for I in and then sudh, so I will be able to print a value of I over here. It means I said that someone is iterating over this string, this for loop is iterating over to this string, and it is able to extract a data out of this particular string. That is completely fine. This is what I said. But here you will be able to find out that string object is not a iterator object. Now there is a conflict. If a string object is not an iterator object, then how for loop is able to iterate through it, basically? So we have to think about that. So because here, so next function. So what about next function? So next function is just a kind of function. So if something is a iterator object, it will try to give you the next data set. As simple as that. This is what next does, nothing else apart from this. So if string is not an iterator object, then why and how my for loop is able to iterate over to it? So basically what for loop does, so for loop try to convert all of these objects into an iterator object internally. So here I'm just trying to show you a working mechanism of a for loop. That's it. How internally for loop basically works. Because so far so forth, what we have done, we have just used a for loop. We were trying to extract the data set, and then bingo, it's done. But how for loop works, we should know about that as well. So here, so you will be able to find out that for loop, because string is not an iterator, string is not an iterator by itself. It means that by default, you will not be able to extract the data set. Simple. A string is not an iterator means you will not be able to extract directly S, directly U, directly D, directly H, unless and until you don't know the indexes. There is a meaning of like saying that. So here, so I have SUDH and I'm trying to extract a data set one by one with the help of for loop, and it's able to do that. But when I have checked with the help of next function, it is telling me that no, string is not a iterator object. Now, how I will be able to make this string as an iterator object? So what happens inside is, so here we have another function called as iter function. So here I can write like a is equal to iter. Iter is a function which will try to make something as a iterator. But again, there is a catch. I'll talk about that. So here I'm trying to pass SUDH, and then if I'm trying to store these things inside a variable called a, and then if I'm going to pass next of a. So if I'm going to pass next of a, I will be able to get S, then again U, then again D, and then again H. So one by one, so I'm able to extract a data set out of this particular string, which I was not able to do. Last time I have done the same thing. I have just passed my string inside the next function, and I was getting this kind of an issue. It was saying me that, okay, fine, so my string is not an iterator. But here, this time, so I'm able to pass this data inside the iter function first, and then I'm trying to pass a inside the next. Means I'm ultimately passing SUDH itself, but after making these things as a iterator object. So here you will be able to find out that, okay, so I'm able to get a data set one by one. This is what next does. So one by one, it will try to extract the data set. So if I'm again trying to execute it, next of a is equal to first of all S, then U you will be able to get, then you will be able to get D, then you will be able to get H, and then error. We are able to get error. Why? I'll talk about that. So here we are trying to make our string as an iterator. But is it true for an integer? So let's try to give some integer over here. So let's suppose 46 if I'm going to give. So what will happen in case of an integer? Now it is telling me that string is not an iterable. Now let's try to understand the difference between iterable and iterator. So if I'll talk about an integer, float, on Boolean and all those things, so these objects are not a iterable object. You will be able to use any object inside a for loop if that object is already a iterable object. Otherwise, you will not be able to iterate over to it. So that's the reason. So you will not be able to iterate over to any kind of integer, value. But let's suppose if I have a list, if I have a tuples, if I have a dictionary, if I have a string, I will be able to iterate through it. But internally, how it iterates. So first of all, again, like we have discussed, that a string object is not an iterator. To iterate through it, an object must be having a iterator things. So by default, and this must be a iterable. So iterable simply means that it's a first basic property. So if you wanted to make something as a iterator, so first of all, it should be iterable. Like integer is not iterable. So you can't even make these things as a iterator. This is what we have seen. I'm trying to pass integer inside the iter function, but I'm not able to convert those things, this integer, I can say, inside into a iterator, because this is not iterable. If something is not iterable, you can't you can't convert those things into iterator. But if something is iterable, so if something is iterable, this this kind of a cross sign. So if something is iterable, you can convert those things into iterator. This is possible, and this is what we have done in case of a string. So in case of a string, so I have passed sudh inside the iter function, and then it was trying to convert my iterable, because the string was iterable. It was converting my string into iterator, and with the help of a next function, so I'm able to extract a data one by one. And this is the same thing which has been done by a for loop. So if I'm going to write for I in SUDH, so for loop knows that this is a string, and if it is a string, this is a iterable object. Now, so it will try to convert this iterable object into a iterator by using internally a function called as iter. This is the reason we have discussed about the iter function. And then with the help of next function, it will start extracting a data one by one. This is how internally for loop is going to behave. So iter to convert any iterable to iterator. So it try to convert any iterable to iterator. If it is a iterable, like integer is not iterable, so for sure it will not be able to convert into iterator, because this is the condition that we have verified. Now, so it will try to convert it, and then with the help of next function, so one by one, it will start extracting the data set. Now here you will be able to observe here. So let's suppose if I'm trying to give iter is equal to, so let's suppose if I'm trying to give maybe like SUDH over here, and if I'm going to call next of A, I will be able to get the data set. Now it remembers that what data we have given last time. So it remembers the indexing or pointers, you can say. So here U, here D, here H. Now again error. So stop iteration error you will be able to get, because it has exhausted this entire, like I can say, like it has exhausted the entire indexes. Now once it will end up exhausting the entire indexes, so for sure you will be able to get this stop iteration error. But I said that for loop always achieve a similar kind of a things, but for loop knows that when we have to stop. So suppose if I have written for I in SUDH, so for loop knows that what it has to do, it is doing the same thing, like first of all converting this like entire things into a iterator, because a string, this is the string and this is the iterable object. So it is converting into a iterator first of all, and then second of all, so it is trying to extract the data set one by one. So that's the difference you will be able to find out between the iterable and the iterator. So integer is not an iterable object, and any object which is not a iterable object, any object which is not an iterable object, you can't convert those things into iterator. So it simply means that you will not be able to loop, or you will not be able to extract a data set by using a for loop. As simple as that. So if someone is asking you a question that what and all data sets are allowed inside a for loop, so what and all data set I will be able to extract? Simple. A data set which is a iterable data set, or second condition is there is something called as a generator. I'll talk about generator after some time for sure. So basically any object which is having a property of a iterable, so you will be able to iterate through it and you will be able to extract the data set. That's a property of a iterator you will be able to find out. So fine, this is like a iterator and iterable objects, I can say. Now apart from that, so print is done. Okay. Now apart from that, so let's try to understand a generator function. So before understanding the generator function, let's try to understand like few of the functions that we have already discussed. So here you will be able to find out that if I'm going to write like a range function, if I'm going to call range, what happens? Range of 5. If I'm going to execute it, it is going to tell me that, okay, fine, I'll give you a data set from 0 to 5. This is what a range does. This is what like a range is trying to do as of now. So range is trying to tell me that, okay, fine. So like I'll give you a data starting from a 0, I'll go till 5, and then I'll try to exclude a upper boundary. So 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. So this is the data set that you will be able to observe in case of a range. Now, so if I will try to iterate through for I in range this one, and then if I'm going to write print of I, so one by one, it will extract a data set from the range function and then it will give it to you. Or else what we can do is, so there are something else that we can perform. Or else, let's suppose if I'm going to call next a range of 5. Now it is giving me what? It is giving me that range object is not an iterator object. Same thing I'm able to get, which I was able to get in terms of a string, and I'll try to fix this issue. Now, how I'll try to fix this issue? By converting my data set into a iterator. As simple as that. Because it is saying me that, okay, it's not a iterator. It simply means that it must be iterable, but it is not an iterator. So now how I can convert anything into iterator? It's very simple. So just by using a iter function. So we try to make my iterable object to a iterator object. So find range of 5. Done that. And then, so inside a next statement, I will try to call A. It's completely fine. It's working for me. Or 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. Next time for sure it is going to give me error because it doesn't know where to stop. So whatever data I was able to get from the for loop, similar kind of a data I'm able to extract even by using a iter and the next function. So with the help of iter functions, I'm trying to convert my data set or my data into a iterator. Range was already a kind of a iterable object. So if something is already a iterable object, don't need to worry about that. Simple, convert those things into an iterator, then extract the data. As simple as that. So by using a iter function, by using a next function, so next will try to extract the data set. Iter will try to convert iterable into a iterator object. Iterable to iterator. So fine. Now, so suppose if I wanted to create range kind of a function, and in other way, so whenever I'm going to call this range, and whenever I say 8, so it is not giving me result directly unless and until I'm not iterating over to it. So basically it behaves like a generator. At the same point of time, it behaves like a generator. Generator means what? Generator simply means that, so it knows that what I have generated last time and then what I have to give you next time. That is called as a generator. So here, if I'm going to like execute it, so you will be able to find out that, okay, fine, so 0, then 1, then 2, then 3, then 4, and so on. It is trying to give it to me. So it always knows that, okay, fine, so what I have to generate next time, what I have to give you next time, by remembering the things that, okay, fine, so what I have given last time. And it's useful in case of lots of process whenever we are going to write, which is a compute heavy processes, it's useful sometime. So here I will try to create almost a similar kind of a function. We have seen that how we can create a normal function and how we'll be able to extract the data set with the help of a normal function. But here, so I will try to understand that, okay, so how we can create a range kind of a function, because someone has created range function. Range kind of function means what? It will not give you the output unless and until you will not iterate through it. It is not going to give you output, as simple as that. So how I can create a range kind of function, we will try to understand these things. So here, what I want is, so I wanted to create almost a similar kind of function, but with a different kind of functionalities. So here I wanted to create a function which will be able to give me cube of a particular number. Simple. So generally, if I have to find out a cube of the number, so what I can write? I can write like, okay, CUBE, and CUB, I can try to pass maybe some values or variables. So CUBE of A is equal to, for I in range of, let's suppose, Hence I'm looking for these many number of this one. Return what? Return I. Now here I'm executing it, and now so here I will be able to get maybe like CUV of maybe 4, and if I'm going to execute it, okay, n is not defined, it's A basically, yeah. So CUB, and again return, so return wise I'm just trying to return only one, so maybe I can try to write like okay, print, and here so I, and then like cube of 4, and I'm able to get like a cube of like a, I can say 0, okay, cube of cube. Okay, so here you will be able to find out that, okay, so whatever number I have passed, suppose I have passed a number 4, so basically it will try to generate a cube of 0, cube of 1, cube of 2, cube of 3. So it's completely fine, and we will do that. But whenever I'm calling this function, so basically it is trying to give me data set immediately. I don't want that, because whenever I'm going to call a range function, so it never gives me data, it always gives me a object. So whenever I'm going to call like a range of 8, right, range of 4, let's suppose range of 4, and just try to compare cube, it never gives me data, it always try to give me an object, and I have to iterate through it. Unless and until like I'm not iterating through it, I will not be able to get the data. Now to get that kind of a function, so what you have to do, so to get that kind of function, this kind of a function, so this kind of function we have already seen that, so we can create this kind of any number of functions, there won't be any issue. But if I have to create this kind of function, then I'm supposed to use an operator called as yield. So instead of using a return, or instead of using a print statement, because return will simply return the data, as simple as that. Now so here instead of doing that, so you can try to use a keyword called as yield. So yield always make sure that your function is a generator function, means it will give you an object, not a data, unless and until you are not iterating through it. Once you will iterate over to this function, then only you will be able to extract the data set. So yield is again a very important concept in terms of a memory management, I would say. With the help of that, so we try to do a lot of memory management, which we'll discuss. So here we are writing a generate q as a function. We are trying to pass n data set. Now so for n in range this one, instead of giving a return, so I'm just trying to use a keyword called as yield. Now this generate q function which I have created over here, this is the generate q function which we have created over here. So now if I'm going to pass maybe like generate q of 4, last time we have written this q function, if you remember, last time we have written this q function, right? Generate q, if I'm going to write, now you will be able to get that. No, it's a object, I'm not able to get the data, not like the last function. This function I was able to get the data set immediately, but I have written yield over here and it is giving me an object. Simple. Now what I can do is, I told you that, okay, so you will be able to get a data set easily from these functions. If I'm going to use list, because list does the same thing, because if you're going to pass a range inside the list, you will get the data set. We have seen that in a past. Or else what I can do, or else I can try to write maybe a next operation, and let's see whether I'm able to get the data or not. So if I'm going to write next, I'm able to get 0. If I'm going to give next, again 0, again 0, again 0. So it's completely fine. So 0, 0, 0, 0. So it is basically like getting back to the same indexes again and again and again. So in this case, in case of a next, it is not able to remember that what I have generated last time. So in what indexes, what I have done. Now, so here what I will try to do is, so maybe I can try to pass this generate cube inside an iter function, and then I can try to call this a. So if I'm going to call this a over here, so instead of calling this, so first of all, I'm converting these things into a iterator. Let's suppose if I'm trying to convert these things into a iterator, now, so 0, now 1, now 2, like second result, now third result. Interesting, basically. So without passing my function inside a iter, if I'm going to call inside a next, it was giving me some data, but it was not able to behave like a generator unless and until I'm not trying to pass these things inside the iterator or iter. Unless and until I'm not trying to convert these things into an iterator, so it was not behaving like a generator. Now, once I have passed these things inside the iter function, now it is behaving like a generator, and it is able to generate a new data set again and again and again. So same thing happens even with respect to a range function, I would say. So I can try to create a kind of a function just like a range, where instead of getting a whole data set, you will be able to get what? You will be able to get an object. Now, once you are able to get an object, now use next and iter to extract the data set. And in general, in your real life scenario, you are never going to use next and iter. So just keep these things with you. So you are never going to use a next function and a iter function in your entire life at all. Then why we are discussing, why we are talking about next and iter? Because we have to understand a working mechanism of a for loop. That's a whole idea, and that's a whole objective, and that's a whole reason. Because of that, so we are trying to understand this iter and a next. We are trying to understand that how for loop works. That's it. You will never be using this like a next. So except like if you're not going to teach someone, I think. So what I can do is I can try it like a for I in gen cube. So gen cube is a function, but I'm trying to call where? I'm trying to call inside a for loop. This is the function which we have created, just like a range function. Now generate a cube of 6, and then do one thing, print what? Print I. And we know that internally for loop is going to call iter and then next. Internally for loop is going to do that. Whatever we have done manually, so for loop is going to do that, and yes, we are able to get the data. And if you remember, same thing we do for a range function as well. range and range of, maybe suppose if I'm trying to write like a 7, let's suppose this is what we do. So if someone told you, if someone is asking you that, okay, fine, so create a function which will not give me a data, it will give me an object, and it should behave like a generator, means it should generate the next data set. Generator simply means that, so if I'm looking for the next data, so it should remember that, okay, fine, what data set we have produced last time, that is called as a generator. So if I'm looking for some generator, then you are supposed to use a yield keyword, and with the help of that, you will be able to create that kind of a function. So I'm assuming that our concept is clear with respect to a function creation, with respect to iterable, iterator, and a generator. So these are the 3 things that we have discussed in today's class. Any object which is not iterable, you will not be able to convert into a iterator. Like integer is not iterable, so you can't convert into a iterable. So just try to just try to remember that string is a iterable, so you can convert into a iterator. This is what for loop does. But integer is not iterable, so you can't convert into iterator. Now if you have to convert something into a iterator, if some object is already iterable, if you have to convert something into an iterator, so in that case you can use iter function, and with the help of next function you will be able to extract the data set. And this is what for loop does. So for loop will try to extract the data set one by one automatically, I would say. So like this is what happens. Again, if I have to create a generator function is nothing but a kind of a iterable function which will be able to like remember that what I have generated last time, just like a range function, range that we are using it like since a very long time. So just like a range function, if you wanted to generate such kind of function, simple. So just try to use like a yield operator, and with the help of yield operator, so you will be able to generate that kind of a function. Again, it's pretty much simple, I would say. So not a big deal at all. Now, so I think it's time to take a couple of questions from you guys, like we have discussed. So from today onwards, we are going to follow this kind of a things, because we are only giving you like a doubt clearing session. So live doubt clearing session we have. And apart from that, so I think most of you have already attended a chatbot challenge doubt clearing session as well, which we have conducted separately twice this week. And I'm assuming that all of you are working towards it. I think you're working with the deadlines, because for chatbot challenge that I have given you, so you have a deadlines, before a deadline, so you have to submit your solution. And unless and until this chatbot challenge is not going to end, right? So don't expect any kind of answer, any kind of a response from our side. Because yesterday we have given you a doubt clearing session, but even if you'll ask my support team, so I have already guided my support team that if someone is asking you about a chatbot doubts, because 2 days we have already like invested on this doubt creation of a chatbot. So I have simply asked them not to give you any kind of a support with respect to a chatbot challenge. So don't expect that we are going to give you any kind of a support with respect to chatbot challenge. We have given you enough amount of support. Now it's your job to complete that particular challenge. Anyhow, basically that's a first criteria. So you can call my, so you can basically like ping. So like I told you, so just try to install Skype first thing. Now, so there is an email ID called as support @ inidon.ai. So you can ping over here through a Skype, and you can have a live chat with my technical team at any point of a time, and you're not supposed to wait for Thursday. So generally, if any doubts you have in between, so you can directly like ping my team, and then they will be able to respond back with the appropriate answer. So whether you have a like a problem with the code, understanding, whatever you have, so just you can ask them. So as of now, like I said, so you guys are dropping us a mail and then you are waiting for next 24 hours. You not have to wait, and it's available for all 7 days. 7 days means including Saturday, Sunday, including weekdays, weekend, or holidays. Every time it is available. So even holidays, so you're not supposed to worry about that. So maybe I won't be available on holidays sometime. Mostly I will be available 99.9% time. But yeah, this team will be available. So this is the dedicated support team that we have created. And yes, if you have to drop a mail, so that mail option is still there, that the facility that you are availing. And apart from that, so yes, we have our doubting session as well on Thursday. Now for chatbot challenge, we have already given you 2 sessions, and I think most of you are facing a similar kind of a issue, whether it's a Rasa NLU, or whether it's a Amazon Lex, or whether it's a Azure Luis, or whether it's a Google Dialogflow. And I think almost every kind of a issue we have resolved from our end, whether you were getting a problem with the APIs, or maybe with the configuration, with the mail system, or something like that. So we have already like a result even yesterday. So almost we have given you a doubt clearing session for almost like a 4.5 hour or 4 point. I think yes, it has started on 9 o'clock, and till I think 1:36 it was going on. So yeah, almost like for close to 4.5, 5 hours. So we have given you a doubt clearing session. I think that is more than enough. Because it's a challenge. It's not something that we are supposed to solve. It's something that you are supposed to solve as a part of a curriculum. So, you know, I think you might be aware about the fact that chatbot is a part of your curriculum as well. So when it will come to a curriculum, when we'll come to that section, we will talk about chatbot for sure from our side. And we will teach you that how to create a chatbot. As of now, it's for you. So we have already released our videos. You have enough amount of help. And don't try to ask any question to my support team. And even if you're going to drop me a mail saying that, okay, fine, so my chatbot is not working, my service is not working, I won't give you any kind of a response unless and until this challenge is over. Once this challenge is over, then you will get a support for sure. So after challenge is over, ask any question related to chatbot, we'll respond. Simple. In between, so yeah, whatever doubts you have with respect to assignments, if you are going through a fast track, if you have doubts with the project or anything, it's completely fine. Ask any doubts that you want. I don't have any kind of issue. Apart from that, yes, you are not supposed to ask us to solve your company's doubt or companies, because many of emails I have received, and guys, you don't even try. The problem with most of you guys is you don't even give a try. So if you are expecting us to give you some kind of a solution, first try this out. And unless and until your solution is not ready, you have not, because I have seen in mostly like a 90% cases that people are asking us a question, but they don't have even opened up a data file, and they're asking us a question directly. Now, what you will be able to understand? Nothing. It's not a big deal for us to give you a solution. Maybe within 15-20 minutes, we'll give you an entire solution. This is how capable we are. But still, there's nothing for you. You will not be able to learn at all. So you will have to attempt it, and then whatever things you have done, that solution you are supposed to submit, then only we can give you a solutions for your problem, your custom problem statement, like from your company or wherever it is, doesn't matter at all. And yes, if you're trying to do something innovative, very new, we are always with you. So just ask us anything. Suppose if you're trying to do experiments with maybe like a completely new type of algorithm or some mathematical concept behind that one, or maybe you're trying to build some completely new innovative solutions, maybe if you're trying to write some kind of a blogs or something, yes, we are with you, and we are going to support you in that case for sure, because we always support our innovations, and this is the reason we are here, I would say. So yeah, make sure that whenever you are going to ping my team, so because I have strictly instructed these things to my team, and they are not going to like go beyond my instruction at all. Now, so I think we can take some questions. Let's see what kind of questions guys are asking. So okay, so someone is saying that, okay, how to avoid error with next. So basically like Kunal, so if you have to avoid error with next, so in that, see what happens is, so whenever you are going to call a next function, so someone is asking that, okay, so if I'm going to call a next function, so whenever my entire data will be exhausted, so for sure it is going to give you a stop iteration. In for loop, basically what happens is this error is been handled. So for loop always knows that what is a length, because we have discussed a length function, len. So for loop always knows that, okay, so what is a length of this entire, I can say like a data set or like a list or a string that we have given to them, and then it will stop immediately over there. Next doesn't know that. Next will keep on looking for the data. So if you have to write like if you're not looking for like any kind of I would say error, then in that case our simplest approach will be, first of all, try to find out a length, and then try to call next only for that number of the time. So I think, Kunal, I'm able to give you an answer now. So I wanted to join a DL batch, will start today at this one. I make a payment now and enroll. Yes, those who wanted to join our DL batches, so it is going to start from today, and at 8 p.m. We have an induction session. So like we have done the induction session in a very first week for you guys, and I think for most of you we have already released a dashboard access, those who have enrolled. So you can call my like a support team. I think you have a mail ID and contact at the rate of ineuron.ai, so you can drop us a mail, contact at the rate of ineuron.ai. You can drop us a mail. That is one facilities that we are giving you. Apart from that, so like the mail that you must have received, so you will be able to find out number of Darius and Pranjal we have given you. So those are the guys who belongs from support team, so who are marketing team basically. So you can call them, and then like they will guide you, they will help you out. So that is one thing. Technical question. Sorry, the other question for DL Python model only recorded videos. Sir, we'll talk about all those DL related things in a DL class. I think it will be better if you can join DL classes, and I'll clarify all those out over there. No DL things I'm going to take. So yeah, you can like still enroll for this DL. So yeah. Let me take some technical question. Most of you are asking question with respect to DL. Guys, kindly, I think I have already dropped a mail as well to issue. And who is this? Okay, so out to what need to be done if I wanted to print execute after the return statement. Okay, so some of you, there's a guy called as Avinash, I think Avinash Kokati. Okay, no, it's Avinash. Okay, not Kokati. Okay, so he's asking that, okay, so like he has written basically a return statement, and then after that he has written a print statement. Now he's saying that, okay, fine, so what if he wanted to like print something after return? You can't do that. Return should be a final statement. So whenever you're using a return, so system understands that, okay, so that's your final statement, I'll return it and come out of the function. This is what happens in case of a return. So if you have to write a print statement, you can write before return as a body of your this one, it will work fine. Otherwise it is not going to work fine, because return should be a last statement. So I think I'm making sense. Kiran is asking question, is yield function used only to create a range of the desired series? No, it's not like that. Yield, I have not like used just a yield function to create a range of the desired series. So yield has been used wherever you wanted to create a kind of a generator, a function which can produce something. It could possible that it can maybe produce like some kind of range of the data set, some kind of a sequences it can produce, or maybe like some kind of a data set manipulation I wanted to do with the help of yield operation, I can use it. So basically yield has been used for creating a generator kind of function. Generator means which generates a new data set based on the logic. So maybe I wanted to generate Fibonacci number, maybe I wanted to generate maybe like some number on, or maybe suppose if I wanted to do some kind of a Fourier transformations and then I wanted to generate some number, I can use yield. So yield is basically a generator function. Now, so someone has written, how does for loop understand that str string is a iterable? By default, a string is a iterable, and like I told you, so we were talking about a iter function, and we were talking about a someone is asking that how for loop understands that whether like a function is iterable. It's very simple. So there is a function called as iter. So for loop always calls iter function. Suppose if I'm going to pass integer, it will give me that, okay, fine, this is not iterable. In that case, it is going to give you issue for sure. So this is how for loop understands, by using a iter and next internally. The computer is the way to come out of the function that has return of values. Like break helps to coming out of the loop. Is there any way to come out of the function that has a return value? So yes, you will be able to come out of the loop. So the last statement should be like Sweta is asking this question. So the last statement will be like return. After return, it is not going to execute anything, like we have discussed already over here. So someone has already pinged me a code, and like we have discussed, so it is not going to give you any things as a return. Okay, so let's take a couple of questions from you guys. I'm just unmuting you.
Sudhanshu, what is the difference between a normal function and a generator function?
So basically normal function and a generator function. So normal function will try to give you an output accordingly. So as you have already seen that if I'm creating a normal function, right? If I'm just creating a normal function like def and then like ABC is a function, and then suppose it will take maybe like a variable a over here, and then it should return. So for I in a, so it should print what? Print I. So simply what will happen is, suppose if I'm going to call this ABC, right? So it will start printing it. So A, B, C, and then let's suppose if I have given 5 over here, so it will start printing it. The object is not iterable. Okay, sorry. So if I'm going to give like a iterable object over here, so it will start printing it. Or maybe like if I'll give 3, 4, 5, 6, so it will start printing it. Or maybe what I can do is I can try to write maybe like into 4, so we'll start doing it simple. But if I'll talk about yield operator over here, so YEILD. So if I'm talking about a yield operation over here in this particular place, so I'm trying to say that, okay, fine, so do one thing, so yield it. So in case of a yield operation, so it is going to give you a generator. It is going to give you object. It's not going to give you data set. Now, if you have to get the data out of this one, then again you will have to write a follow, because we know that if there is a function called a generate, if there is a generator object, so I have to call these things inside a for or inside the next function after converting these things into a iterable. So like then you will have to print I, and then you will be able to get the data. Simple. That's the difference between like general function and the yield function. So yield always behaves like a, or generator function always behaves like an object, and it will try to like know that, okay, so what is the data set which I have to produce, and what is the data set which I have already produced. Okay, next question please. Anyone? Okay, let me unmute Prakash. Prakash, you have question? No? Okay. So Umang, do you have a question? Manish?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Go ahead.
Yes, sir. Sir, I am asking. Sir, yes, sir. I am asking, sir. In the real world scenario, where do we basically use generators?
So generators generally, suppose if I am trying to, so my system, I'll have to restart my system actually. So I used to show one example. So I'll show you tomorrow. So I'm trying to generate a Fibonacci with the help of yield, and I will try to generate a Fibonacci without yield. And you will see that if I have given a very long range, right? So it will try to, so like if I have given like a wrong days like a 1 million. So if I have to generate a 1 million number, so in that case, with the help of normal function, so I will be able to generate like a 1 million number, but it is going to take the entire memory or entire main memory space for me. But if I'm using a yield operator at the same point of a time, so I will be able to find out and I will be able to show you that no, it is not going to take the entire memory space. So it is just trying to generate the data and throwing it out, generating a data and throwing it out. For example, I'll show you. So let's suppose if I'm trying to generate a data set in between 1 to 10, and if I'm trying to enclose within a list. So can I say that unless and until this entire list will not be prepared, it is not going to give you output?
Yes,
Agree?
sir.
Yes.
Sir.
Now
Yes,
let's
sir.
suppose, so this list is too huge. Let's suppose I have used a 10 million over here, right? 10 million data if I'm trying to state. So can I say that unless and until it's not going to generate a 10 million data, you are not going to get any output? Yes.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Now, so in case of yield, what happens is, so yield just generate one data and then throw it. Generate one data, then throw it. Generate other data, then throw it. So in this way, can I say that I don't have to wait for like this list to be prepared? So even without that, so I will be able to extract the data sets. Yes.
Yes, sir. It doesn't store anything in the memory.
Yes,
That's
it
what
will
you are.
keep on throwing it. It will keep on generating it
Okay.
basically, right? It will keep on generating it and will keep on throwing it inside a console. Same thing you will be able to achieve with the help of print statement as well. Without even using
And
yield,
if
that is
we
possible
and sir,
to
if we
achieve.
do this in the okay.
So
And if
in
we do
this,
this,
yeah. So even if we have a 10 million data set, it's completely fine. I will be able to generate the record. This is what I'll show you tomorrow.
and sir, in the like iterable and iterators and the generators, are generators like the superset of iterators? Because in generators we are also doing the work of iterators. Is it like that?
No, it's not like that. See, a generators object that we have created. So you must have seen that even when we are trying to call a next and we are trying to pass a generator object, so it was not able to give me all the data set. It was just giving me data set at the index 0, right? When I have passed this generator inside the iter, and then when we are passing this data over here, so then it was trying to give me one by one data set, right? So you can clearly say that first of all, like iterable object comes into the picture, iterable, and then tertor. So if something is iterable, you can try to convert into iterator. Now generator is a one of the kind of iterable object, you can say. So whenever we are saying that, okay, fine, so I have created a generator function, so it simply means that I can say that, okay, fine, so I have created one kind of a iterable object, because generator is what? Whenever you are going to call generator function, it gives you object, right?
Yes,
So you can
yes.
clearly claim that it is one of the kind of iterable object.
Okay, then
Making
we have to
sense?
convert it to iterator.
Yeah, then we have to convert it into a iterator. Generally you will find some conflict, like if you are going to pass like next and then a string, right? Suppose my name, if you are going to pass over here, it will give you error in a first place. First of all, you have to pass iter and then you have to pass this one over here, then only it will be able to generate s and then u and then d and h. But in case of a generator function, you will observe that you can directly pass a generator function over here, but again you will not be able to get the expected output. You will be able to get only a data set at the index 0. Now if you have to get the iteration of that, so then you have to pass inside the iter, and then iterable object you have to pass, because generator object are also a iterable object. Now as we have discussed, so if there is an object which is a iterable object, then you have to convert those objects into what? Iterator, right? And then
Yes,
it's
sir.
fine. With the help of
Okay.
extract the data. That's
Okay, and
simple.
the sir example which you have given, in which you have taken millions of data. So if
Yeah.
we do it with a simple for loop, it will take a lot of time. That's what
No,
you are
it will
saying,
not
na?
take a lot of time. No, no, no. This is not what I'm saying. If you are going to iterate through a for loop, that is fine. It is going to take a same amount of time. If you are storing all of those data into a single collection. So
Okay.
finally, if suppose I'm looking for list, I'm not looking for data one by one, millions of data one by one. I'm looking for all these things inside a single collection, right? So unless and until this collection will not be prepared, it is not going to give you any kind of a output, right? Now, if I'm going to use YEILD, sorry. So if I'm going to use this operator, so can I say that this is the generator operator? So whenever I'll call a
Yes,
function
sir.
where I have implemented my logic to generate this thing, So it is like keep on generating a next data set again and again and again, right? So by remembering the fact that, okay, fine, so what we have generated last time, so it will not wait for this list to be prepared. Basically, it will start throwing the data set immediately. So if it is not waiting for this list to be prepared, in that case, for sure, you will be able to get the immediate response. Basically, like it is not going to consume a lot of memory. So these things will be clear. Just wait till tomorrow. So I think this is the next example that I'm going to discuss. And again, if you want to do some kind of experiments, it's already mentioned inside your IP file that we have already shared inside your dashboard. You can go through that and then you will be able to clarify it.
Okay, sir. Thank you. Thank you, sir.
Yeah. So fine, guys. So this is it from today's class. So just try to practice, try to ask any kind of related doubts. This is how the class pattern that we are going to follow, because this is the feedback that we have received from many of you saying that we are wasting a lot of time by taking an unnecessary question, and even I'll agree with that. So many of you are asking a question without practicing it inside your system, and when we are already giving a doubting session, so there is again a lot of support for like a doubting session, so there is no meaning of taking this question. So just try to understand the concept, try to go through this entire thing that we have discussed, practice it by yourself, ask a question to a support team, drop us a mail, or you can ask this question into a live doubting session. With that, thank you so much. And again, in this way, so guys who don't have any question, so they can drop off after 12 o'clock. So they can drop off. They don't have to wait for other people. Those who have a concern questions, they can stay here. So fine, guys. With that, thank you so much for joining today's class. See you again tomorrow. And yes, if someone is looking for a DL, so DL is going to start today. Yes, for sure, I will be taking care of this entire DL, ML, and vision part, as we are already covering. We are already having another DL batches which is going on, and you can just call my support team, or you can drop us a mail, and then you will be able to do it. Now, I think assignments is already updated in your section, so just try to complete those assignments and try to submit it. So whenever you try to submit your assignments, within 2 weeks, it will be evaluated. Now, so yeah, this is what you have to do. So fine, just practice it and then solve it. Someone is talking about lambda functions. The lambda function, I think we'll discuss tomorrow. So we haven't discussed today. It's fine. With this, guys, thank you so much. See you again tomorrow.